There's a moment I've noticed before every recession. It's not when the headlines are screaming or when markets are already falling. It's earlier than that. It's the moment when people feel uneasy, but don't yet know why. They sense something shifting. Conversations change. Confidence softens. And quietly, a question starts forming in their mind. Should I do something? Right now, over the years, I've learned that recessions don't test intelligence. They test temperament. Most people believe the real challenge is knowing what to buy or when to sell. But the truth is much simpler and much harder. The real challenge is staying calm when uncertainty arrives. In this video, I want to share the single most important strategy I rely on before a recession. It's not complicated, it doesn't require predictions, and it doesn't depend on being smarter than anyone else. It's a way of positioning yourself so that when fear spreads, you're not forced into decisions you'll later regret. I've seen markets fall, I've seen people panic, and I've seen patient investors quietly come out stronger. Not because they were bold, but because they were prepared. If you stay with me until the end, you'll understand how to approach recessions without rushing, without guessing, and without losing sleep. Because when it comes to money, the biggest mistakes are rarely made in bad times. They're made when people feel pressured to act fast. Let's talk about how to avoid that. When people hear the word recession, they imagine one thing, the market falling. But the bigger danger is usually closer to home. I've watched normal, hardworking people do three painful things. They sell good investments to stop the bleeding. They go to cash too late. After prices already fell, they freeze, doing nothing for years because they don't trust themselves anymore. And I understand why. Recessions don't just bring lower numbers. They bring uncertainty. You might be thinking, what if I lose my job? What if prices keep going up? What if I invest and it drops again next month? What if I wait and miss the opportunity? That mental tug of war is exhausting. And in that exhaustion, people reach for dramatic moves because dramatic moves feel like control. But here's the truth I've learned the slow way. Most financial pain comes from rushing. Rushing to protect, rushing to fix, rushing to be certain. And the calm investing mindset, especially the one Buffett is famous for. So when you ask what's the one strategy before a recession, it's not a stock tip, it's not a prediction, it's not a secret asset. It's a position you put yourself in. So you don't have to panic, because if you can avoid panic, you've already beaten most of the market. Now let me tell you the strategy in one sentence, and then we'll unpack it. Here it is, simple, calm, and powerful. Before a recession, I want to be in a position where I never have to sell. That's the strategy, not sell everything, not time the bottom, not hide until it's over. Just this. Set up my finances so I can hold through storms and even buy when prices are better. Without fear. Buffett has been consistent about this idea for decades. If you're forced to sell because you need cash, you lose your power. If you're prepared, you gain patience. And patience is a quiet advantage. So the strategy has two parts. Part A, remove forced selling. That means making sure a market downturn won't push you into selling good assets at bad prices. Part B, keep flexibility. That means having the ability to act when others can't, because they're stressed, leveraged, or short on cash. This is why you'll hear long-term investors talk about liquidity, staying within your means, and avoiding debt that controls your life. It isn't boring for the sake of being boring. It's boring because it keeps you free. A recession can be a painful season, but it can also be a season where the best opportunities quietly appear. If you're prepared, now let's turn that strategy into practical principles you can follow. Starting with the foundation, a simple buffer. If I could give every beginner one gift before a recession, it would be this. A buffer that helps you sleep, because when you sleep well, you make better decisions. That buffer has two layers. One, a real emergency fund. Not a hope fund, not a maybe fund, a real one. Cash that covers your basics if life gets bumpy. For many people, a good target is 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. If your income is unstable, you may want more. This isn't about being fearful. It's about being honest. 2, a recession-friendly budget. Before recessions, people often live like tomorrow is guaranteed. A calm investor doesn't do that. A calm investor asks, what can I cut now so I don't have to cut later in paying? It could be small things, subscriptions you forgot you had, debt payments you can reduce, lifestyle habits that quietly drain you. When you lower your monthly need, you increase your freedom. And freedom is what keeps you from selling when markets fall. Because here's the real pattern. People don't sell in a recession because they want to. They sell because they have to. So the first lesson is not about the market at all. It's about your household. Now let's talk about the second principle. Avoiding the kind of debt that turns a downturn into a disaster. A recession is like low tide. When the water pulls back, you find out who is swimming with heavy rocks in their pockets. Those rocks are usually bad debt, especially debt that depends on everything going perfectly. Debt can be useful in certain situations. But before a recession, I want to be careful with any debt that has three qualities: high interest, short timeline, stress attached to it. If a monthly payment makes you anxious, it's not just a payment, it's a leash. And here's what debt does during a recession. It takes away your options. You can wait for a better job offer. You can hold investments through a downturn. You can take advantage of lower prices. You're busy trying to keep your head above water. So this is part of Buffett's quiet strength as an investor. He avoids situations where someone else can force his hand. In everyday life, that looks like paying down high-interest credit cards, avoiding new car debt that stretches you thin, not taking on payments you can't handle if income drops. This is not about shame. It's about positioning, because the goal is simple. When the recession arrives, I want my life to be stable enough that I can stay patient. Now let's talk about the investing side. What you do with your long-term money when fear is in the air. A recession makes everything feel urgent, but long-term investing works best when you act without urgency. So here's the principle. I keep buying good, understandable businesses over time. And I don't change my plan because the news got louder. For beginners, that often means simple diversified investing, like broad index funds. Because you're not trying to pick perfect winners. You're building a long-term ownership mindset. Recessions can drop prices, and the price drop is not automatically bad. If you like the idea of owning something at a high price, you should like it more at a lower price, as long as it's still good. The mistake people make is they treat investing like shopping for emotions. When things feel good, they buy. When things feel scary, they stop. But the market rewards the opposite. This doesn't mean you become reckless. It means you become consistent, because consistency does something powerful. It removes the pressure to be right at the perfect time. If you invest monthly, you buy at many prices, high, low, and in between, over years. That steadiness becomes your strength. So before a recession, the question is not, should I stop investing? It's usually, how do I structure my life so I can keep investing calmly? Now, I want to give you a short story that explains this better than any chart. Imagine a farmer who grows fruit trees. Every year, he faces storms. Some storms are small, some are... Now, two types of farmers exist. Farmer A, the reactive farmer. When the sky darkens, he runs around in panic. He makes expensive decisions in fear. He sells tools. He stops planting. He tries to predict the weather. Farmer B, the prepared farmer. He can't stop storms either. But he builds strong fences. He keeps supplies. He plants every season because he knows what time does. When the storm comes, Farmer B doesn't feel happy, but he isn't destroyed. And after the storm, while Farmer A is exhausted and broke, Farmer B is still standing and ready to plant again. A recession is a financial storm, and the one strategy before a recession is becoming Farmer B. Position to endure, position to continue, position to act when others can. This isn't about being brave. It's about being ready, because courage without preparation is just stress. But preparation creates calm. Now let's turn that story into practical steps you can take. Starting with one simple question that guides all smart money decisions. Here's a rule I live by. If I might be forced to sell it at a bad time, I shouldn't buy it with money I need soon. That rule sounds simple, but it saves people. Think of your money in two buckets. Bucket one, short-term money. Rent, food, transport, bills, emergency fund. This money's job is stability. Bucket two, long-term money. Investments meant for years. retirement, long-term wealth building. This money's job is growth. Recessions become disasters when people mix the buckets. They invest short-term money and then life happens. A bill shows up, work slows down, the market drops. And now they're forced to sell at the worst moment. That's not bad luck. That's a system problem. So before a recession, I separate the buckets clearly. I don't invest money that might be needed next month. And I don't treat long-term money like it should never go down, because long-term money will go down sometimes. That's normal. But if it's truly long-term money, you can hold through it. And holding through it calmly is the entire game. Now, let me give you specific actions you can apply immediately. Not theory, not hype, just clean steps. Here are 4 calm actions you can take this week to copy the strategy. Action 1. Write your must-pay number. List your essential monthly expenses, housing, food, transport, utilities, minimum debt payments. This number is your financial heartbeat. If you know it, you plan better. Action 2. Start building a buffer. Even if you can reach 3-6 months fast. Start small. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. Because every extra week of buffer reduces panic. Action 3. Reduce one payment that stresses you. Pick one debt, subscription, or expense and lower it. One small reduction can create breathing room. Action 4. Make your investing automatic. If you're a beginner, automation helps you stay consistent. It protects you from emotional decisions. You're not trying to be clever. You're trying to be steady. Now next, I want to show you what to do when the recession actually hits. Because that's when emotions get loud, and that's when the strategy truly pays off. When markets drop and people panic, here's the calm checklist I follow. 1. Check my life before I check the market. Am I safe? Are my bills covered? Is my buffer intact? If the foundation is stable, I don't need to react. 2. Don't stare at prices all day. If you watch every dip, you'll feel every dip. Long-term investing is not a daily activity. It's a lifelong habit. 3. Keep doing the simple plan. If you're investing monthly, keep going, assuming your emergency needs are handled. In a downturn, you're buying more shares for the same amount of money. That's not exciting, but is powerful over time. 4. Be careful with special opportunities. Fear creates scams and bad deals. If someone promises certainty in a recession, be cautious. Real investing rarely feels like certainty. The goal during a recession is not to feel smart. It's to stay solvent, stay consistent, and stay calm. Now let's pull everything together, and I'll give you a final way to think about recessions that can change how you feel about them. Here's a perspective that helped me. Recessions are the tuition long-term investors pay for future results. No one likes paying tuition, but you pay it because the education matters. A recession tests 3 things: your emergency fund, your debt choices, your emotional discipline. If you build a life where you're not forced to sell, then a recession becomes a difficult season, not a life-changing disaster. And sometimes, quietly, it becomes a season that sets up your future. Because prices fall, fear rises, and patient money, prepared money, keeps moving. That's why the one strategy is not a prediction. It's a position. A strong position says, I don't need to panic. I don't need to guess. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to stay steady. Now, in the final part, I'll give you a calm call to action and one closing line. I want you to remember the next time recession headlines start to shout, if you take nothing else from this video, take this. Before a recession, I prepare so I'll never be forced to sell. That's the strategy you can copy. Build your buffer. Reduce the debts that remove your options. Keep your investing simple and consistent. And protect your peace by not reacting to every headline. Because money grows best in the hands of someone who can wait. If this helped you think more clearly about money and feel a little more steady about the future, you may want to stay with the channel. On Wisdom from Warren Buffett, we keep things calm, practical, and long-term, so you can build financial peace one good decision at a time. And here's the reflective line to end on. A recession is loud, but patience is quieter and stronger.